The Alpha Podcast with your hosts from LarsonPress.com, Adrian Larsen, and from TMNutrition.net, Tony Montgomery.
Hey, this is the Alpha Podcast. You got myself, Adrian Larsen, and Tony Montgomery.
What's up, guys?
Today we're going to kind of jump into a couple of different topics. One is it's really going to be focused around motivation and kind of what motivates us, maybe some legends in the game, things like that. But first, why don't we kind of talk about what you got going on, and are you getting fatter?
It feels like it. I think in my face retains a lot of fatness. But I think maintaining good body weight right now, I feel like everything's kind of like leaning out a little bit. But I haven't really changed much with my diet. So on a scale of like 1 to fat, I'm like big boned right now. So like a 7, but it's, I feel really strong, and it takes a lot to gain weight and move up a weight class. And I don't think a lot of people like truly grasp, what kind of commitment it takes to putting on like good solid weight and building a foundation. And for me, I know that like by gaining this weight and sitting at like 255 pounds, for my weight class, it's going to take a good 6 to 8 months, right? So it takes time to put the weight on, and then you got to maintain that weight so your muscle kind of matures and sits at that weight, and your body homeostasis kind of gets used to that weight. So, for me, it's just, it's an ebb and flow of like maintaining that weight and trying to push through. And, this last week's been really tough for some unknown reason. I'm having like the hardest time digesting my food, to where I haven't really changed my calories. I'm like right around like 5,200 calories a day, which of all clean food, and that hasn't changed since January 1st. And for some reason this week it's just been like nearly impossible to finish it, to the point where like I've thought about just looking in my bowl and just puking back up the food and then just blending it and just chugging it. Yeah, man, it's rough. So
maybe we should try something where I'll take the food and chew it up for you, and then like spit it in your mouth like birds do.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, because it would save me calories from chewing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would just build our relationship that much further.
Yeah, and I think if it ever got weird, like lip on lip thing, we could do it through a straw.
Yeah, I was thinking more like a funnel.
Yeah.
You want to get to the lip on lip thing first before we make that decision? Because I was pretty much sold on like a funnel before the skin contact
Maybe
happens.
I jumped the gun there.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ease into it. We could start with like a small straw that's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then move to the funnel, and then eventually, depending on comfort level, we'll move to the mouth-to-mouth, maybe lights dim type, like sideways even maybe.
I hear if you keister it for a little bit, it helps with digesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes
sense. Are you familiar with keistering in your field?
In my line of work, I'm familiar with it. I've been to Mexico a couple times.
Do you get a what do you do when you get a guy that has a keister? Do you go in with the gloves, or? Yeah,
so I try to avoid those types of situations. And so one thing to do is just play stupid, right? Like, and then move on.
So that's pretty natural for you.
Yeah. Or 2 is just kind of like maybe throw out some threats out there that you really aren't going to hold up. Like, I'm going to come in there and get that, but you're really not.
Yeah.
Like, you just, you look at my hand. It's not going to be comfortable.
Right.
Maybe throw on a glove and snap it. But yeah, no,
No. Mm-mm. Yeah. Those are brave souls right there, man. The guys that go that route.
Yeah, for what, tobacco?
Yeah, or whatever.
Man.
Yeah. But no, I think nutrition-wise, everything's going well. I do find, and for you guys out there that are trying to gain weight and you're having digestion issues, you can actually blend up your food, like your meats and stuff. You can blend it up, and that really helps a lot with digestion. It helps with the absorption rate, and just makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to blend it up like as a shake.
Yeah.
But just making it like smaller.
Shred it a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. So if you guys are having trouble like getting weight on and putting weight on, that's another step you guys can do for sure. And if it continues to persist, I'm gonna have to do that next week. But it's weird. Like you have those ebbs and flows of like one week you feel really good, and then the next week you feel like as soon as you eat breakfast you're full, and then it's gonna be a shitty day from then on out.
Yeah. And I think too, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but depending on depending on like where your life is at, right? Like maybe different stress or being a little more busy at the gym or more clients, work, whatever. All of that kind of plays a part in too with how you're going to feel as far as eating, or maybe if you're busy, for too long, all that can play a part in your dieting, right?
It's an excuse for sure.
Because that's what I do.
Yeah.
I use that as an excuse all the time.
It's an excuse. If you treat like eating and your nutrition like it's a job, then you're going to be less likely to have excuses on why you can't finish it,
Yeah.
You wouldn't show up to work and be like, oh no, life's really stressful, guys. I had, 6 meals today, so I'm going to have to skip out on work a little bit early.
Right.
You don't have those options. So if you give yourself, all these fallbacks on life, stress, and all this other stuff, then, if you let that start affecting your food, what else is it going to affect, So it can play a part for sure. And it's easy for me to say, like, relax more, meditate, read, quit putting yourself in high stress situations. But in reality, it's like, if you want to be good and you want to, get to a certain level, you just got to treat things like it's a job and just get it done.
Yeah.
And whether that's like, say, if you're busy and you can't eat 6-7 meals a day, you better eat 2 to 3 big ones. Like as long as you're getting those calories in.
Calories in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The other thing that going back to the blended thing, I've tried that one time, and that was harder choking it down that way for me.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt like I don't know. It kind of grossed me out a little bit. So I had to steer away from that. And obviously just what I like doing now is similar, but just like pulling everything apart and making like my chicken yesterday, I just like shredded it. So it was like really small bites instead of, blending it. Probably would have ended up looking the same.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, when I put it in the blender and shake it up a little bit, it like freaks me out.
Yeah. Well, you could also, like, if you do that, like blend it, you could put it in like a chicken broth and make it like a soup.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of takes away from the grossness of just eating it out of a blender.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, shredding stuff, anything that's like already kind of pre-cut and pre-digested looking is going to be easier to put down. So you just want to make sure you get that stuff, especially if you're eating a lot of calories. You want stuff that's easy to digest, so stuff like if you're eating rice and you're having trouble, go to cream of rice because it's already, pre-broken down into granulated like rice. And then you can also do baby food's another one too. Mm-hmm. I started doing that for meats, because you don't really have a lot of time to eat real food in between flights, in between lifts. So having
it's
baby
high
food
in
there.
nutrition too.
Yeah, exactly. So especially for the bigger guys, like I used to do peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but then I started doing the baby food, and it just has more nutritional value, has more calories in it, so you're able to get it down a lot better. And for me, I feel like that gave me a little bit more sustainable energy.
Mm-hmm.
So right now the plan is, nutrition-wise, is to keep doing what I'm doing, and it leaves me in the morning at like 251 to 252. So just a 10-pound cut. It's gonna be pretty easy. So I'm just hoping that I can maintain this, and by the time I get done maintaining it throughout the meet, it'll be a good time for me to do like a little mini diet.
Sure.
To kind of get rid of any excess body fat, because it gives me plenty of time to maintain this weight and make sure that the weight and the muscle that I'm putting on stays on when I go into a diet phase again.
Right.
How about you? How's your subpar nutrition going?
Well, so what I've done is added cereal in the morning, and that seems to really help. That kicks my metabolism way up. So I'm leaning out.
What kind?
It just depends. Any kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No point intended there. I started kind of, looking at hitting 220 for a mid-April meet. And I started roughly at about 244, 245-ish. And this morning I was 237, so I think I'm, on track to hit where I want to be. I don't want to fall below like 232 to 230 is about, I want about a 10 or 12 pound cut.
Yeah.
So I think I'm right on track for that. Kind of my problem right now is I will eat really good and consistent throughout the day. And then like last night, kids wanted a little treat, so I give them treats, and it's like, shit, that looks really good. And then it's like, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this, protein shake. I'll throw a little bit of heavy whipping cream in there. Hopefully I can just make this last, right? And I ended up breaking and eating shit food and having a couple of treats, and which isn't the end of the world. I'm still far enough out that all that can be corrected, but you have too many of those slip-ups and
you just make things harder on yourself.
Yeah. And I'm one of those guys that, like, every time I consume something like that, then it, like, makes me feel like I need to do something to burn that off, like go do cardio or, go lift weights, go do something.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad about it. And so, at 9 o'clock at night, you're kind of laying in bed or, getting ready for bed, and like my mind was just going on and on about, like, I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to go do some cardio, and it blows.
Yeah.
It blows.
Yeah, I think you can go like two ways with that. You can go the route you go, or you can say, like, fuck it, I'm just going to start eating whatever's in sight. I already messed up this meal, so I'm just going to keep going, and then I'll just start fresh in the morning. And,
right.
You do that enough times, you're going to be so far behind that everything's going to kind of be neglected and fall to the wayside once you start getting ready for the meet,
Yeah.
If you can be perfect, the further out you can be perfect, I think the better the results, So, like, what do you feel makes you, like, go that route instead of saying to yourself, like, I got this plan, I got these goals in mind, my cravings and my temptations aren't going to be bigger than my goals.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you feel like you fall? Because it's just further out, or?
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem, is it's so far out, and when you start seeing progress, right, you kind of relax a little bit and you become complacent with your dieting, because you see, like, oh, okay, well, I'm getting really close to where I want to be goal wise, and so you just kind of exhale, and then you have that one slip up or two slip ups, and you're like, well, I'm still pretty far out. Like, I don't have to kick it up. The whole point of, like, dieting this far out was, or taking care of my nutrition, was to not have to really do a hard diet or a hard cut.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's the position I'm going to put myself in if I keep screwing this up. But that was the whole point. Is I think you just get comfortable and you sit back and go, well, I'm within range, so let's screw it up now. So I have to do a hard cut and build character later.
Yeah, I get that a lot with my clients. They'll they'll have a good week and everything's on point, and they do their check-ins, and it's like, oh, I'm down 2 pounds, and then they'll message me, like, I do weigh-ins on Monday and Thursday, so then they'll message me on Saturday and be like, oh, I'm down another pound since Thursday. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And to me, I know what that means. That means, like, I checked my weight, I'm down extra, so I'm going to go out and eat tonight and celebrate that.
Yeah.
So I don't really see, me personally, I can't put myself in their shoes and be like, I have all this success, now let me go and take a couple more steps back, So I think either finding, like, healthier alternatives for you to, maybe get the missus in the kitchen doing some, like, protein cookies or something, or, something like that, to where at least it's like a healthier option, so you can still kind of get it in, but then you don't feel as guilty about it.
Yeah, and in the past we've done that, and it really worked well. Typically, protein shakes will do it. Like, usually, like, you put a little bit of heavy whipping cream in there, and it kind of thickens it up a little bit, so it's almost like a milkshake, and so I typically would be good. And I have this like a really big issue that, like, maybe after an intimate moment, like, for whatever reason, something clicks in my head where I feel like I need to have cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's
not strange that you would associate that with cookies. It's kind of like a Freudism where, you would associate certain things with, like, your mom.
Sure.
That type of syndrome, like, psychologically, you're
Yeah.
having some type of Freudian type correlation there, which is weird.
Something isn't right in my brain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it for me, a lot of times what I see with clients and stuff, and is that as a child, you know, what happens? Like, you bring home a report card and you get A's. Oh, let's go get you some ice cream. Good job. You did good. You know, oh, you hit a home run in a baseball game. Oh, well, you know, let's go celebrate with some food. So every time you have this sensation of happiness or joy or accomplishment, you know,
it's a treat.
It's a treat, exactly. So it's just habits that you got to break, psychological habits. So you got to find other ways to get that reward mechanism, you know, to go from it being food to it being something else.
So you think that like that switch is switching because I'm like, yeah, I just hit it. So like now it's time to treat myself again.
Yeah, I think you're doing a double treat where maybe afterwards you can like go and give yourself like a gold sticker or something.
Right, go put a sticker on the fridge.
Yeah, something like that. You know,
that could get weird. You're gonna come over with like a gold star refrigerator.
But yeah, I think that happens to a lot of people, and they just have to learn to replace the reward of food with a reward of something a little bit healthier, something, you know, just the satisfaction of yourself being able to accomplish things, you know, is should be rewarding enough. So you got to be able to figure that out.
Yeah, I think you can even take that a step further. Like when I grew up, you always had to finish your plate before you get up from the table, and you know, then you carry that over like to an adult. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been in a restaurant and you're full, but you keep eating because you have this thing in your head of everything on this plate has to be gone. Yeah, it's weird, you know.
For me, I do the same thing, but it's not because like that's how I was brought up. It's because I'm just a cheap ass, right?
Sure.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna pay $20 for this plate. I'm not going to take it home to eat it later. I want this fresh now. So you just indulge in it until it's gone. And then you suffer the gluttonous punishment of like fat meat sweats and just,
uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
I also feel that if you're a dude and you're walking out of a restaurant with a to-go bag, you might as well be carrying a purse.
Right.
I mean, it's just loaded with estrogen.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely not the route to go, but that mindset's also the reason why, you know, we're always dieting as well. Yeah. So it's definitely something that everyone has to figure out for themselves. And, you know, I think if you can find a goal or you can find something in your life that's bigger than food, that's going to take you a long way, you know, which is kind of the topic we wanted to go over today. Was like, how do you stay motivated? What keeps you motivated on your diet? And as you can hear, like, everybody has those lapses, everybody has those problems. So even if you see elite level athletes, you know, they're not perfect. They always take those steps back. But what prevents you from making it, you know, going from one bad meal and not making it like a full day of bad meals? Like, what's the motivation that keeps you going? What's the motivation that pushes you into the gym every day as well? And that, I think that motivation, however you find it, is what separates the great lifters, the great athletes from just the good ones, you know. So for you, what do you feel like is the tipping point for you as far as motivation goes? Like what gets you going? What pushes you to become better?
Well, I think like dieting wise and nutrition wise, people have an expectation, and the expectation isn't for me to go compete at 275. The expectation is that I'm very competitive at the 220 range, right? And so it was really hard for me the first competition that I went to, having to go to 242 because I couldn't make 220. And so I always kind of felt like, not only just for everybody, but for like my kids, like not being able to hit 220 or comfortably be at 220, like I'm telling them it's okay to just say, well, screw it, I'm just gonna be okay with where I'm at now. You know, one of the things I've tried to always instill in my kids is that if there's anything that you want to do, you just put your mind to it and you can do it. And that's as simple as cutting down to 220. It isn't impossible, right?
Right.
It's very possible. But it's just taking that kind of easy way out and going up to the higher weight class. And then finding like motivation inside the gym is that like people, I've always had this chip on my shoulder that people think that it can't be done or I can't do it. And I kind of carry that with myself when I go to the gym, as far as like, I'm going to prove to you that I can do it, and I'm going to do it better than you. And when you leave the gym, you're going to have an idea that, you know, he worked harder than I did.
Yeah.
And like that really fuels my fire. That's what kind of really gets me going, is that mindset of just not wanting to quit or give up, and proving to everybody that I could do it.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's for me, like, motivation is definitely a hard thing to define, right? Usually the guys who are really good at anything, they just do it, right? It's just second nature to them. And from a young age, I was always taught, like, if you're gonna do something, do it to the best of your ability. And that's kind of what always keeps me motivated, is like, if I'm gonna do something, if I'm gonna put my time into something, I want to be the best at it. And I know that if I go in with a lackluster mindset and if I skip on meals on my diet, then I'm not doing it to the best of my ability. I take a lot of pride in what I do and a lot of pride in what I can accomplish through, like, being rigid and being, over the top and extreme with stuff. And I think for a lot of people, lack of motivation comes from lack of pride in what they're presenting and what they do, Like we were talking about earlier, is like, it's easy for people to quit at stuff. And, people quit because they don't have pride in it. They don't learn to respect the process. They don't learn to respect the journey. And, from a young age, I've always had that vision of, like, whatever I do is going to take a long time to get to it. So going there every day, it's like, it's like chopping down a tree. Like, every day you're just cutting wood. And I know if I do that enough, then I'm going to be where I want to be when it's all said and done. And I can look back and be satisfied at that. And I think that's kind of what keeps me motivated, is like the fact that I know when I'm done with lifting career, when I'm done with my business, when I'm done with all this other stuff that I have going on in my life, I can look back and say, like, I gave it everything I had, and I can be proud of that. I won't look back and say I have regrets because, I skipped the week because, I just didn't feel like going to the gym. Mm-hmm. Like, I wake up every day excited to be able to go and work out, and excited to make sure that I stick to my plan. And, for me, I think also a little bit of internal motivation comes from, being in the military and building this camaraderie with all my other Marines that I was with, and knowing that, like, we spent a lot of time in the gym together, and that's kind of what we love to do. That was our escape. And those guys that I spent years with, lifting with and learning how to lift and doing all that, some of those guys aren't there anymore, and they gave, like, the ultimate sacrifice to, keep us safe and keep us free. And for me, it's like, it's a disservice to wake up and not give it my all, mm-hmm. when those guys gave it their all and they're no longer with us.
And they're probably watching.
Yeah, if you believe in that, for sure.
Yeah.
But just, I just feel like I owe it to them to be at my best, and, to represent them and to represent the Marines and represent, what we did is just another driving force to make it there every day, for sure. So it's just, I guess, motivation just comes from kind of like, how you're raised, certain things, certain activities that have happened in your life that have pushed you to a certain point to where, like, you're just motivated because of that. I think the people that tend to fail are the ones that are motivated by, extrinsic things. They're motivated by fame, or they're motivated by likes, or, people just tell them how cool they are, how good they look. Those are the ones that usually don't last.
Yeah.
So if you can find something deep down inside of, like, why you want to be the best, and what's going to wake you up every day because you want to get up, not because you have to get up. And I think that type of motivation right there is just the type of stuff that's going to, push you beyond your limits and keep you going every day, even if it's not the best day. And, for you, it's a chip on your shoulder from so many people telling you that you couldn't do it, mm-hmm. because of your disability. And for me, it's just, doing it for the guys that, gave their lives, and what we lived, what we built in the gym. It's just that camaraderie. So I guess, you find that motivation throughout the years, but it's usually there in some shape or form with the really good people, for sure.
One of the things I had a really tough time with was after I broke the all-time record, was like finding that motivation. I felt like very similar to how I feel with, like, the dieting, where, like, I became super complacent. Like, you just exhale for a second, hell, okay, I don't need to go to the gym on Monday. I can take Monday off, because I've already achieved what to me it seemed almost unimaginable at the time. And then, you finally get it. It's like, whew, now I'm here. Now what do? Like, I don't have some guy in front of me that pisses me off so much that I want to, break his record. And that was really tough. It took me probably, 3 or 4 weeks before that thing like lit back up in my head of like, hey, I need to get back in there and start hitting it hard again.
What kind of lit that for you though?
Again, it really just falls on, I think family. I think everybody's a little concerned about maybe the legacy that they leave behind them, right? If there are important people to you, maybe like your dad or, people from the military, you probably, the reason they stand out to you is because they were hard workers. They always worked hard. Or, as an example, my dad would be sick and wouldn't be able to go into work, but he would still be outside doing yard work. It never made sense to me.
Yeah.
Because I'd get sick and I'd be a bitch. I'd be in bed, everybody's bringing me shit and I'm, just being a bitch. But I want to be that person to my family. I want to be the guy that works hard and, I want my kids to look up to me and think, when I'm not here anymore, like, yeah, when my dad was sick, he was still in the gym.
Yeah.
Or, when he didn't have to go to the gym, he went to the gym. And so I think that's kind of what relit it for me was, I need to get back in there and keep going. This definitely isn't over.
Yeah. Why didn't you like break the record and think to yourself like, okay, now I got to get back in the gym and go after 600? Like, why is it? Because it's not a number that you're chasing. It's just kind of like a legacy that you're trying to leave behind that gets you more motivated, or what do you think it is?
Well, I think everybody always has like a number in their head, but I really sought out to break that record primarily because Chris Duffin said I couldn't.
Yeah.
We were sitting in the gym one
That
time.
son of a bitch.
That son of a bitch. I was 285 and I was benching probably 525 and he looked at me and he says, "There's no way in hell you'll ever be 220 and bench 585." And it was just like, I looked at him, I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you serious right now? And he's like, yeah. He goes, "You're too fat and you're never going to be strong enough." And, he was saying that to help motivate me. But at the time, it was like, man, screw you.
Yeah.
And I kind of did some soul searching. And that was the drive, was really to prove Chris wrong. It wasn't until I started getting close to the record to how much it meant to me.
Yeah.
Benching, 600 or 700 at the time, it didn't matter to me. What mattered to me was that I could break a record legitimately that had been sitting there for 30 years.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that like I was satisfied with just having a record to like hang my name up on the wall. It was more of just finally achieving that goal. I had chased it for so long that I was able to just kind of exhale and say, okay, now I need to kind of regroup.
Yeah.
And then it took a handful of those weeks to kind of maybe figure out, I think maybe what had done it was to maybe really having like another goal in mind. Finally something popped up that seemed challenging that I needed to go back out and chase.
Yeah. I think with success does come complacency, and you see that a lot. You see that a lot with people, athletes, they'll become MVP, or they have a really good year just to get paid, and then the next year you don't hear from them, and then the next year you don't hear from them. And I think in lifting, it's you see guys that break all-time world records, and then they kind of die off, and you don't really hear from them anymore because they did it, they're satisfied, and then like now what drives them? And I think a lot of people, successful ones that don't fall into that complacency, they find something like a different reason why. Like for you, I think that it was just you wanted to be the dad that your dad was for your kids. And that's going to be way deeper than any number you ever hit on the platform, right? So, and you do that by going to the gym and showing them, you're capable of doing stuff that people said you couldn't. So whenever your kids have that come up in their life, they're going to remember you for doing the same thing. And that reason is so much bigger than any number that it's hard to get complacent, It's hard to think about missing days when you put something in the bigger scope of things, you know, like
Sure.
your kids, right? Because you can only be, you can only be the dad that they look up to for so long, that they learn from, before they start learning from their friends, before they start learning from other outside influences, so I think once you find a bigger reason than just numbers, or a bigger reason than just notoriety, then you're going to be able to last a lot longer, which kind of is one of the other topics we're going to come up to, is like legacies. Like, you have these guys that transcend the sport and transcend many sports, and why is their legacy so much better than guys who come in, they do something, and then you completely forget about them, In powerlifting, like, everyone knows Ed Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
He transcended the sport. But there are other guys that set world records around his time in other weight classes.
Lifters.
Right, but nobody knows about them.
Mm-hmm.
So what separates, the Ed Cohens, the Ronnie Colemans, the guys that are still going to be talked about even when they're no longer around? Like, what do you feel like separates them from everyone else?
I wonder if it's just putting themselves out there. Ed Cohen puts himself out there quite a bit, and some of that you have to be ready for criticism and some negativity. Same thing with Ronnie Coleman. I mean, he really puts himself out there, and I wonder if that's what kind of separates maybe some of the guys that have this legacy versus the guys that are probably as good, maybe even better, but really aren't talked about.
Yeah, for me, I think to completely disagree with you 100%. For me, it's like, most people that go into weightlifting, right, go into bodybuilding, go into powerlifting, they are probably not the most successful athletes, right? They probably played some high school sports. They probably may have played a little bit of college, but they can't really relate to the NFL guys, right? So you get into a sport like powerlifting and bodybuilding, where you come to this realization of, like, if you just go in there and put in a lot of hard work, you can become really good at it. And you see guys like Ronnie, and you see guys like Ed, who are blue collar guys that just went in there and just did work. So they're extremely relatable. Hard working guys are relatable to the average American,
Sure.
Right? Instead of the guys that it comes easy to and they have good genetics, you can't really relate to that, because you can put your hat on, like, man, Ronnie came into the gym and he was deadlifting 800 and he squatted 800 and he's just attacking the weights. And Ed, every single day he's in there just lifting, and you don't hear from him. He's just in there putting in work. And I think those guys have a far better legacy than you look at guys who were genetically better than them. You have like Flex Wheeler.
Sure.
In bodybuilding. Everyone says that he was the most genetically gifted human being to ever step on stage, but he never fully accomplished his goals, and he never fully was extremely relatable to other people, because he just wasn't a hard worker.
Yeah.
So I think legacies are built by hard work and by kind of your reputation, right? You don't hear a lot of negative things about Ronnie. You don't hear a lot of negative things about Ed, but there's a lot of people in the sports fields now that have a lot of negativity behind them, and once they're done with, they're going to be forgotten.
Sure.
So now that I proved your point wrong.
Yeah, so now that I'm wrong and you're right,
do you want to retract your previous
I'm
statement?
going to go ahead and retract it. I do think I still have a little bit of merit to what I had said.
It's a big word.
Yeah, I don't know how to spell it.
No. It's only like 5 letters, but
Yeah, I think it starts with a D.
close.
I think I still feel like putting themselves out there. Ronnie Coleman had went through a lot of stuff throughout his career.
Yeah.
And he was kind of in the spotlight around some negative and positive things that happened to him. But none of that really tarnished. People don't look at Ronnie and go, "Oh, remember that one time this happened to him?" I think them putting themselves out there really helps.
Yeah. What do you mean putting themselves out there?
I think kind of allowing, it all kind of revolves around social media. I think being a very personable guy where people can learn more about him, either through Facebook or YouTube, and see some of the things you're talking about, being a hard worker. not necessarily just in the gym, but in life in general. Same thing with Ed. I mean, I think Ed is passionate about lifting, but he's also really passionate about being a good person and helping other people. And I mean, he's like a really good success story, right? I mean, he's that kind of feel-good story, the good, humble guy that ends up, being super successful, but now he wants to help everybody.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, you can still disagree with me if you want, but maybe you're wrong.
I do. Mainly because social media wasn't around back then. So that kind of disproves your theory.
You sure?
Pretty sure. Pretty sure it's more of a mainstream thing relevant now. But I think you did have one decent point in there. Like, they're good guys, right? Mm-hmm. Good guys are something that people remember, right? When you're gone and you're passed away, people are going to remember, like, if you were a good person or if you were a bad person more than they're going to remember what you accomplished. Yeah. Right? So the people that are out there burning bridges and that are just, like, shitty people, they're going to be forgotten because people want them out of their mind immediately once they're done in the sports. But for guys like Ed and, Ronnie was a police officer, so he just has that stigma about him, like he's just a good guy. Mm-hmm. He's a top bodybuilder, but he's still serving, and protecting people. And I think with legends like that, even, I think the guys that are relatable are just like the good, wholesome, good-hearted guys, right? Even in football, right? Like some of the most popular guys in football are just like the guys that seem down to earth. Yeah. And obviously, like, pro athletes, you're not going to really get to know them, but you got guys like Brett Favre, who everyone just thinks is like someone that's always having fun and a good guy. I mean, yeah, down the road he got caught sending dick pics and stuff.
I'd be having fun too if I was doing that all the time.
Once social media comes about, everything's fair play, but he was just one of those guys that everybody seemed to enjoy watching. Yeah. So everybody still talks about him, and so you have guys like Steve Young, who was a good guy, backed up Joe Montana, Aaron Rodgers, all those guys that are extremely popular because they were known to be nice guys. They gave back to the community and stuff like that. And I feel there's just far too many guys who take away instead of give. And those guys aren't really going to be remembered. Yeah. The ones who I looked up to, the ones who motivated me, were the ones that like worked really hard, and you didn't really hear a lot of negative things about them. Like, I always looked up to Ronnie Coleman as a kid growing up with lifting weights, and even in wrestling, I was a big like wrestling fan, so I always looked up to the good guys, like the Ultimate Warrior, guys like that. Those are the ones that like truly inspire you and motivate you to originally get going, So I think those guys have the legacy behind them because of their work ethic and who they were as a person, And for me, that's kind of, I'm genuinely in that same premise as far as like that's kind of the legacy I want to leave behind, is like I want to be known as someone who was just a hard worker and was a super nice guy that's willing to help anyone at any point in time, So that's what I've always tried to convey as who I am. I get a lot of emails and messages from people when they ask me all kinds of questions, and I try to answer them to the best of my ability all the time, or point them in the direction of someone who can. But I think those legacies are the ones that live for a really long time. And obviously they're great. They're the greatest of all times too. So that always helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, giving back to other lifters, I think is really important. And I think that's what like will stand out in other people's minds. I have this one in particular incident where probably like 4 or 5 years ago, I sent off a Facebook message to a top-notch lifter. Nothing. I didn't even get, hey, this is what I think, this is how I'd approach it. I just got nothing.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, I didn't want to like blast you out right here, but then, like Courtney would send the same person a message, and in 2.3 seconds, here's a paragraph response with attachments and videos, and this is how you do this. And,
yeah.
That's always stood out to me. Every single person that I get a message from, and I get some silly questions sometimes, I will really sit down and put a wholehearted effort of a response into it so that they feel that I'm passionate about trying to give them the correct answer.
Yeah.
Instead of just, go do this, and then just let it be, or even maybe not even respond at all.
Yeah. You just don't tell them to go to larsenpress.com and buy your ebook.
No. Did I do that to you?
6 spots available. Sign up now immediately.
Sign up now, yeah.
Yeah. Only taking on 6 guys, super busy. Sign up now, limit the time. Or else I'm going to change the name of my book and resell it for you.
I was thinking about just mix matching some pages.
Yeah.
And then put it back out as like the...
Larsen Press 2.0.
2.0, like...
Bench 600 or die trying.
The bulk plan, maybe.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
Add a couple pages so it looks like it bulked up itself. Yeah. That makes sense. But I think the ones that are humble, the ones that give back, are the ones that are going to be known for a long time. And, I feel like the ones that are just in it for notoriety, or are just in it for themselves, they'll be forgotten, and that's fine. That's their legacy that they want to leave behind. Everybody has a path that they want to choose, and choose the path that fits you best, and don't complain about it, and don't bitch about it. Just, it is what it is. It's your path. Go for it.
You talk about this like doing it for yourself thing. It kind of brings me up to something like a guy like Mark Bell. How much stuff does he do for free for people that, at a guy at his level, or maybe other guys that are at a similar level to him, would never do that kind of stuff for free?
Mark actually charges me when I text him. He sends me a bill.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think Mark does anything for free. Yeah.
This is a sore subject.
Yeah, he's a jerk.
I think you see like how he'll put on like deadlift seminars, and maybe it's only a 2-hour deal, or maybe it's only even an hour.
Yeah.
But that he puts the thought into coming out to some place and spending some time with people that may no way be able to see him any other way.
Right. He has a free gym.
He has a free gym.
I know gyms that don't even let you drop in for free. Oh yeah, I traveled 4 hours to come train at your gym. Oh well, it's $25. Yeah. Thank you. Have a good day.
Sign here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mark's definitely one of those guys that gives back to the sport, and he's one of the guys I think that gives back to the sport the most, and he gets back from the sport the most because he's given so much. He invented a product to help people out, and he's opened up free gyms, and he does, I don't know, he has like I think over 1,000 YouTube videos of just free content.
Yeah.
And then he's at the point where he can fly great lifters out to his place and have them give out their content and provide an outlet for them to get known,
for free.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where he's making the steps in the right direction to actually make the sport more mainstream, and you also have a lot of people that hate on him for that as well, which blows my mind. It's like he's making the sport better, but I guess if you got the haves and the have-nots, right?
Yeah.
If you're on Mark's have-not list, then obviously he's a shitty person. And if you're on his have list and you're good friends with him, then he's the greatest person in the world, I guess. But, you can't knock the guy for trying to make the sport better and, make it a better place for people to get free information and learn, because I don't know anyone else that's doing stuff like that. I know there's a lot of guys out there putting out free content like, Chris Duffin's another one that puts out a lot of really good content, brings people up to his gym, does seminars and stuff, goes across the country to teach people his stuff. And, it's very rare to get people like that are able to, kind of give back as much as they've gotten. But yeah, Mark's by far one of the nicest human beings I've met. Jesse Burdick's another one that just keeps giving free content out. Jesse Burdick?
Yeah. Is that a chick? I'm just kidding.
I have no part in this. He's Jesse.
He'll giggle.
Jesse Burdick. He's like
this tall?
This tall, kind of wide, bald.
I think I probably followed him on Instagram.
His fiance is Katie Hogan.
Oh, him.
Yeah, that guy.
Oh, okay.
Katie Hogan's fiance.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be Jesse Hogan. When they get married. I think that's the
I didn't even know he had a name. I thought it was just Katie Hogan's fiance.
Well, I like to be a little respectable on air, but yeah, behind his back, that's what I call him.
Oh.
Yeah. But him, those guys, I feel like the guys that give the most are also the ones that make the most money too down the road. and are the most well known, so people have a tendency to hate on them more.
Yeah.
You know, which is, it's a shame because either they didn't think of it themselves, or, you know, they don't like. I don't get the people that don't like Mark because he's incorporating non-powerlifters into powerlifting to grow the sport.
Right.
You know,
and
people want to have it back in their fucking dungeon with, you know.
Well, they're all stubborn, you know.
Yeah.
It's only their way, right?
Right.
Their West Side four-board method's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, we can train in my basement and, you know.
Listen to fucking Slipknot over and over and over.
Right. No video cameras. We're just hardcore.
Hardcore beast mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, you know. Welcome to the new world. And
I think no matter what, you can't ever get 100% of people to agree that one person is great. You know, no. I think you could look at guys like Mark or Jesse, Ed, that put out a lot of free stuff. Chris Duffin put out a lot of free content, and then you're always gonna find a handful of guys that are like, oh well, he's an asshole, or you know, I don't agree with what he's saying, or whatever he's doing is not right. I think a lot of people forget too that like Jesse puts out a lot of videos on mobility stuff and like maybe how to fix technique issues, and you do a lot of stuff also. Like when you watch that 3 to 10 minute video on YouTube, that probably took 2.5 hours total to put together for somebody to watch.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget when you watch that 3-minute video that Jesse's talking about, you know, how to fix your shoulder, or, you know, you got some mobility issues, you know, do this stretch. Like that takes him a couple of hours to complete. Right. That isn't, he just gets on YouTube, hits record, so do this, and then it's done. You know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. And
he goes through that to give out that kind of content for free to help people be better.
Yeah.
For nothing in return.
Right. Yeah, no, I
think only so some jackass could say, "Who's Jesse Burdick?"
Yeah, I think people always think if you're a good guy, you have a hidden agenda, you know, and a lot of times you're just a good guy, and that's just so many people. And I'm sure this is true for Mark, and I'm sure this is true for Chris and Jesse and all these guys, is when they came into the sport, so many people helped them that it would be ignorant and dumb if they didn't give out the same help that they received, right? Yeah. Because they wouldn't be where they are if it wasn't for people going to help them and going out of their way. And now there's just a bigger platform to do it on. YouTube, Instagram, things like that, where you can put content out every day.
And reach thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah. And just because you're too lazy or you're too ignorant or it's just not your thing doesn't mean it gives you the right to hate on them.
Yeah.
You know, embrace it, appreciate it. And if the more people can start to do that, then I think the sport can grow a lot more, you know. It's kind of like you have in baseball, right? You have the old time baseball guys who want to do everything by the book, you know, it's the unwritten rules. And then you have these new guys who are doing everything with, you know, algorithms and, you know, numbers and stuff like that. And
playing money ball.
Right, exactly. So you always have that in any sport, I guess. You have the old timers versus the newer, and they're always going to butt heads. But if you can always see the good in things and, you know, try to think that people are doing this just because they're good people, then I think that gives a little bit more positive feedback and positive reinforcement for the sport to grow, you know, because it is a grown sport, and where it's grown to, I don't know, because, you know, all these people are paying money to do meets, and you don't really see a lot of the meets and federations giving back to the lifters, but that could be another subject for another
That's
podcast.
Another hour talk.
Yeah.
So do you think maybe one of the things I could do is maybe go to like Sports Authority, get some 5 to 15 pound dumbbells, throw them in my garage and say it's a free gym, and try to like lure in fitness competitors?
Fitness competitors?
Or maybe figure competitors?
You lure them in? Like,
yeah,
where you
like
roofie them?
If I have to, but it'd be a free gym.
Yeah.
You think they would come?
No.
Oh.
No. You're just weird.
Is that weird?
Yeah, that's just... It's a little borderline. Like, this stuff is gonna go public.
But we're trying to get I'm trying to get a free gym.
You do have a career that you're trying to jeopardize with this stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll edit that part out.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna help them with their posing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've never seen me pose?
No.
Oh. Yeah, I'll show you later.
Probably not. It's probably one of those things where I can go without ever seeing in my lifetime.
I'll post it on YouTube and tag you in it.
I think that'd be good.
That'd be good stuff.
That could go super viral.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think finding those people that you relate to, finding those good, good guys that you look up to can be motivating in and of itself as well. But I think unless you have that motivation within, then you're not going to be able to achieve a lot of the things you set out to do. So definitely find out why you're doing everything you're doing. Like, you got to have a bigger purpose than just, I want to do it just because, right? Yeah. You have to have something that drives inside you. You got to have that other person that's going to come out and kick you in the ass when you don't want to do it, because there's going to be plenty of days where you don't want to wake up. But you got to have somebody inside of you that's telling you to get your ass out of bed. You set your mind to something, because you have a bigger purpose, you have a bigger reason to get out there and do it. And if you can't figure that out, then maybe you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? If you can't correlate between why you want to do it and the motivation and the actual goal itself, then maybe you should think of something else, And I get that a lot with people that want to diet. Then, they want to diet because they want to look good for the summer.
And for somebody else.
Right. Yeah. And those are the ones that never make it, The ones that are like, I want to diet because I want to improve my performance and I want to be better at this sport or that sport. Those are the ones that are extremely successful because they're doing it for a bigger purpose.
Right.
So you got to find something that's a little bit bigger than you.
Yeah.
What? Can you fucking regulate this house, man? Yeah. Jesus Christ.
I can't help it.
Over here trying to podcast and I got shit flying at me.
I can't help it.
It's just amateur hour, man.
This is, you're in Oregon now.
Jesus Christ.
It's Oregon. You can't.
What is that supposed to mean?
Well, it's just like different here. It's like the hippie-ish. You're not supposed to flick bugs here.
Was that in Maine?
Yeah, like that. That's probably going to get the podcast shut down.
That thing was huge. What was that?
Those are called stink bugs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you'll see these during the summer. You think it was
attracted to me because I smelled good?
It could be. You'll see, like, during the summer, they're everywhere.
Nice.
Yeah, and then if you, like, step on them, they stink.
Really?
Yeah, so when they get scared, they apparently, like, throw out this odor, and that's their deterrent. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They don't, like, do anything. They don't bite. They're nothing, but they're...
Apparently they fucking attack you.
Yeah. Well, I think they saw your big dome, and it's just like... just nosedive to take you out.
I feel like that's a false accusation. A lot of people seem to think that I have a big head, but I think it's average size. Got a big brain that takes up a lot of space in there, but I think that's a normal size head.
Big. That's pretty big.
Debatable. I think it fits my frame. But yeah, I think the bug situation needs to be better controlled or I'm out.
Maybe I'll throw up a net.
Could we get a bug net? Something like that. I mean, Jesus, I'm trying to do a professional podcast here. And I have fucking shit attacking me.
Spray like bug repellent on you next time.
It's unacceptable.
I know. I can't help it. Where can people find you?
Not here after this incident.
It's the last one.
Find me at tmnutrition.net, TM Nutrition on YouTube, and Tony Montgomery Jr. all through social media.
You can find me at larsenpress.com and Adrian Larsen or Larsen Press on Instagram and Twitter. Twitter,
I believe, is the...
Twitter?
Yeah, I think Twatter is French pronunciation.
Oh. So Twitter. You can find me on Twitter.
Because he does a lot on Twitter.
I twatter sometimes.
You twat a lot.